What if I told you that you don't have to die to find out what the other side is like? It might sound crazy, but the evidence points to something even more surprising. You are already living the afterlife right now. And the most intriguing part is that the clues have always been right under your nose. This challenges everything we've been taught and goes against what many believe. But by understanding this, you can eliminate fears, doubts, and even that existential void. Before we dive deep into this discovery, take a second to check if you're already subscribed to the channel, and make sure to hit that like button, because there's a lot more coming your way. Imagine for a moment that everything you perceive as real is actually a consequence of your consciousness, and not the other way around. It may sound insane, but that's exactly what ancient spiritual traditions and even modern researchers suggest. Consciousness is not a byproduct of the brain, but the fundamental principle that exists before matter. You know that déjà vu feeling that makes you swear you've lived that moment before? Maybe it's your spirit whispering in your ear that life as we know it is just a small part of the whole. Now think, what if this life we're living is just a continuation of many others? Like an infinite book where each existence is a chapter you've already written, but forgotten. It's like changing clothes. The body fades, but your true essence continues. Consciousness transcends ages, stories, and even the illusions of time. One curious example is the case of children who, without ever studying, describe historical events in astonishing detail, as reported in the book Return to Life by Dr. Jim Tucker. So, if consciousness is eternal and the body is temporary, the inevitable question is, what are we repeating without realizing it? What are we carrying from other existences without even knowing? Could that irrational fear, that unexplainable talent, or even that love at first sight have deeper roots than we imagine? Maybe. And that answer might begin to reveal itself when we look at what we call life cycles. What if I told you that the feeling of, I've been through this before, isn't just your imagination? Life, it seems, is built as a continuous cycle of learning. Every repetition, every recurring mistake, every challenge that keeps coming back is actually a subtle message from the universe. Think about those moments when you say, why does this always happen to me? Maybe life is patiently trying to teach a lesson that hasn't been fully absorbed. These loops manifest in many forms: toxic relationships that repeat, work patterns that never work out, impulsive decisions that end in regret. It's like a video game, where you go back to the beginning of the level until you learn how to overcome the obstacle. Our existence always brings us back to the point where we need to evolve. Here's a practical exercise. Try writing down for a week the patterns that most frequently repeat in your life. You'll be surprised by what you find. And if every déjà vu, every "this has already happened" feeling is actually a nudge from your own spirit saying, hey, we've been here before, remember? Maybe these echoes from the past are invitations to change direction, to make a different choice than last time. And when we understand that, life stops feeling like a prison of repetitions and begins to reveal itself as a map to something much greater. A map that was drawn thousands of years ago by traditions that saw the world through different eyes. Long before modern science dared to speak about consciousness and alternate realities, ancient civilizations already claimed that life was like a mirror, reflecting what we carry inside. In Tibet, monks said the physical world was a kind of purification after death, a continuous test for the soul to become free. Gnosticism taught that we are trapped in an illusory reality created to teach us how to awaken. Curiously, these ideas from millennia ago are now beginning to find support in studies of quantum consciousness, aren't they? If you look into Tibetan practices, such as the Tibetan Book of the Dead, you'll see that they describe the transition from life to death as a change in state of consciousness, not an end. And when modern science explores phenomena like out-of-body experiences or memories of past lives, it ends up knocking on the same door that those ancient masters opened centuries ago. It's as if, finally, what was once considered mysticism is now being recognized as cutting-edge science. So maybe it's time to reclaim that wisdom we've left behind in the hustle of daily life. Practices like meditation, conscious fasting, and self-knowledge, taught in so many traditions, might be the practical tools we need now more than ever. And by adopting these habits, a person begins to see that there is something beyond this concrete reality, something that feels more and more real when we look at life as a great code waiting to be deciphered. Have you ever imagined that life might actually be a kind of virtual reality game? It might sound like sci-fi, but many physicists and consciousness scholars are taking this idea seriously. They suggest the universe is more like a construction of information than something made of solid matter. In other words, what we see, touch, and feel would be a kind of code with which our consciousness interacts constantly, as if we were players inside an immersive scenario. Think of a video game. The character doesn't know there's a programmer behind it, setting rules, obstacles, and missions. The same thing happens with us. Every encounter, every challenge, every amazing coincidence could be intelligent programming guiding our evolution. A simple example is when, out of nowhere, an incredible opportunity arises. It seems like luck, but it could actually be a code you helped write before you were born, adjusted by your current vibration. And if that's the case, changing the game means changing the player. By altering your thoughts, your emotions, and your state of mind, you literally change the environment around you. Just like in the book The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot, reality shapes itself according to the consciousness that observes it. This opens up a huge field of possibilities, including the idea that suffering isn't a programming error, but a strategic lesson for our soul's growth. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. Nobody likes to suffer, of course. But what if I told you that pain, instead of being random punishment, is actually a precise tool for the soul's evolution? Every loss, every frustration, every tear shed carries a deep lesson that life insists on teaching us. It's like a cosmic personal trainer. It may push you hard, but the goal is to strengthen the best inside you, not break you. And like any intense workout, the results come with time and persistence. Want a practical example? When we go through heartbreak, it's natural to feel broken. But over time, we realize that pain pushed us towards self-knowledge, self-love, and the pursuit of healthier relationships. As Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor and creator of logotherapy, once said, suffering ceases to be suffering the moment it finds meaning. Finding that meaning amidst chaos is what transforms pain into wisdom. So, the next time it feels like your world is falling apart, maybe it's the perfect moment to ask, what is life trying to teach me with this? It's not about passively accepting everything. It's about seeing discomfort as a demanding teacher who doesn't let anyone pass the grade without learning. And when we start to see life from that angle, we realize that even time isn't as linear as we thought. And that's when things get even more intriguing. We grow up believing that time is a straight line. We're born, we grow, we age, and we die. Everything following a neat timeline. But what if I told you that time is more like a spiral full of loops, overlaps, and unexpected meetings? According to various ancient traditions, and even modern physics, past, present, and future coexist in a tangle where everything influences everything. That strange feeling of carrying old wounds even when you don't know where they come from? Indeed, they may be echoes of other turns in this great spiral. It's as if each of our choices reverberates not only forward, but also backward and sideways. An unresolved childhood trauma, for example, can shape the kind of opportunities or blocks that arise in adulthood. Likewise, a conscious healing now can resonate to heal memories that seemed buried in time. For those who like practical examples, the practice of Ho'oponopono, which works with forgiveness and the reconciliation of memories, is a powerful tool for rewriting these invisible temporal layers. And what if death is not the end of this spiral, but merely a change in frequency within the same melody? When we look at time through this lens, we understand that dying is not disappearing, but simply switching phases within this greater reality. A perception that becomes even more intriguing when we hear stories from those who have crossed this veil and return to tell about it. Imagine waking up in a place where everything seems the same, but at the same time absolutely different, more real, more vivid, more meaningful. That's exactly what thousands of near-death experience (NDE) accounts describe. People who were technically dead and came back report that the other side is not a nebulous fantasy, but a reality even more solid than ours, as if we are currently within a dense layer of the afterlife without even realizing it. And these reports don't come only from people who already followed religious or mystical traditions. Doctors, engineers, skeptics, all with surprisingly similar stories. In many cases, the descriptions involve familiar landscapes, reunions with loved ones, feelings of deep peace, but also a crystal clear understanding that life continues on another frequency. A good book for those who want to dive deeper into this is Proof of Heaven by Dr. Eben Alexander, a skeptical neurosurgeon who completely changed his perspective after an NDE. If the afterlife is already so similar to what we're living, maybe the big difference lies in our perception and not in the setting itself. It may be that we're walking through another world without noticing, and only a shift in consciousness would allow us to see beyond the veil. And you know what's even more fascinating? There's a possibility that we ourselves participated in the creation of this entire experience. Now hold on to this. What if the universe you live in was designed by you? It may sound absurd at first, but several philosophical streams and consciousness studies suggest exactly that. The idea is that there are higher versions of ourselves who, outside the limitations of time and matter, have designed this reality as a classroom to promote our spiritual evolution. In other words, we are not just players in this game, we are also the developers of the script. Want a curious example? Think about those situations when everything seemed to go wrong, but looking back, they were exactly what shaped the best part of who you are today. Coincidence? Maybe not. Maybe it was a programmed challenge so that you could access dormant potential. An interesting exercise is to write as if you were sending a letter to yourself. What would be the main challenges you would assign to yourself for growth? Then compare that with what you've actually experienced. And if we are the architects, that means we also have the ability to rewrite parts of the game while we play it. There's no need to wait for the afterlife to change levels. Awakening happens right on the board, and each conscious choice is like pressing a secret button that unlocks a new layer of reality. But to access this level of mastery, we first need to develop something very rare: lucidity within the dream itself. Many people believe that the goal of spiritual life is to escape this reality, to transcend, to flee pain, to disconnect from the world. But what if the true master is the one who stays here lucid, conscious, navigating life like someone dancing in the middle of a storm? It's not about escaping the game, but mastering it, understanding its rules and acting in alignment with the soul's mission. It would be like becoming a pro player inside the very video game you helped create. In practice, this means living with purpose, even when the world seems to collapse around you. A powerful exercise is to ask yourself every morning, what can I do today to honor my mission? Sometimes it's as simple as acting with more patience, forgiving someone, or just persisting with that forgotten project. Small actions aligned with your real purpose create invisible waves that rewrite the structure of your personal game. And it's precisely in those moments of lucidity that we realize every challenge is an opportunity for conscious growth. Every repetition is an invitation to wake up. Every obstacle is a chance to respond differently. And little by little, we begin to understand that even the pain, the losses, and the insistent cycles of life have a strategic role in our journey toward the full awakening of consciousness. And it's exactly this awakening that starts to manifest in the most unexpected moments. You know those times when everything seems to fall apart. The broken heart, the lost job, the unexpected disappointment. Well, they don't appear by accident. Every obstacle, every frustration, every pain that tears the chest is actually a secret code programmed to wake us up. They're like cosmic alarms, ringing loudly to remind us that we're living on autopilot, forgetting who we truly are. And the most curious thing is that when we look back, we almost always realize it was those shocks that truly changed our lives. Want a simple example? Think of someone who lost a job and in desperation ended up discovering a hidden passion and built a business much more aligned with their essence. Sometimes what seems like a tragedy is just life forcing a system reboot. An interesting exercise is, in every major crisis, to ask, what is this trying to show me about myself? That question holds enormous transformative power, capable of flipping the consciousness switch. And it's not only in big events that these triggers appear. Sometimes it's that uncomfortable conversation, that unexpected encounter, that strange déjà vu in the middle of the street. Small reminders, strategically planted to pull us back to our greater mission. Because the truth is, the universe won't give up on waking us up. And the more we resist, the stronger the signs become, until we're finally ready to see the intelligence behind each event. At first glance, the world may seem like a great chaos, where things happen without much logic or reason. But looking more closely, we begin to perceive a subtle pattern. Everything seems to fit together as if there were an intelligence organizing every tiny detail. That's where karmic algorithms come in. Precise, invisible systems that place us exactly in the situations we need in order to evolve. Nothing is random, not even that line you got stuck in or that offhand comment that got under your skin. To understand it better, think about how algorithms work on social media. They deliver exactly what you interact with the most. If you get irritated easily, life seems to send more irritating situations to test your patience. If you cultivate gratitude, it seems that small miracles start popping up in your daily life. A practical exercise here would be to keep an emotion journal for 30 days and observe how the pattern of your emotions shapes what happens around you. These algorithms don't function to punish you, but to train you. Every challenge is a question. Have you learned how to deal with this yet? If the answer is no, the test comes back in a different form until you pass. When you change, the algorithm changes. It's as if we're playing a game with multiple levels, where each level depends on the awareness with which we navigated the previous one. And it is on this journey that we find the true source of power. Many people still think power is about money, status, or control over others. But true power, the kind that moves invisible mountains, comes from within. It doesn't shout, it doesn't show off, it doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. It's a state of inner alignment so strong that reality itself begins to bend to your vibration. People with this kind of power don't need to convince anyone of anything. Their mere presence already transforms the environment. Want a real example? Think of the Dalai Lama. He doesn't lead armies or command empires, but wherever he goes, the entire energy of a place changes. This happens because his inner frequency is so high that it naturally radiates outward, effortlessly. A simple exercise to start accessing this kind of power is to develop the habit of adjusting your frequency every morning. Before leaving the house, align your intention for the day by cultivating feelings such as gratitude, trust, and purpose. When you understand that your energetic field is your true strength, external struggles lose their meaning. Wars, arguments, relentless competition, all begin to look like the behavior of someone who hasn't yet understood the game. And it's precisely at this point that we begin to remember something many sages have taught for millennia. The reality we see outside is only a reflection of the mind. It is within that we must look if we truly want to change. The idea might seem absurd at first glance, but various ancient traditions and even modern studies point in the same direction. Everything we call reality is, at its core, a mental projection. Hermeticism, Gnosticism, Vedanta, all speak of a universe that is created and shaped by the mind. And this isn't just a metaphor. Every thought, every belief, every emotion subtly shapes the fabric of reality. In other words, the world you see out there is, in fact, a reflection of what is happening inside you. Want a practical example? Think of two friends going to the same party. One is full of problems, worried, anxious. The other is in a good mood, open to positive experiences. Even in the same environment, they will live completely different realities. A powerful exercise to understand this in practice is to try a 7-day complaint fast. No complaining at all. Just that simple change already deeply alters how reality responds. If reality is mental, then there's no use trying to change the external scenario without first changing what goes on behind the scenes of our consciousness. This perception changes everything. From being a victim of the world, we become conscious co-creators. And when that realization hits, a new power begins to emerge, along with the responsibility of awakening to a mission that no one else can fulfill for us. In a time when everyone is waiting for a savior, a leader, a guru, a cosmic event to fix everything, the great truth is often ignored. No one is going to do it for you. The awakening of consciousness is a radically personal, non-transferable process. There's no shortcut, no manual that works the same for everyone. Each person has to do their part, pick up the flashlight, and illuminate their own shadows, even if stumbling at first. Want a practical example to begin this journey? Define one small act of presence every day. It could be meditating for 5 minutes, walking while observing your breath, or simply writing down 3 things you were grateful for that day before going to bed. Simple? Very. But consciousness grows from small habits, not from big theories. A great book to dive deeper into this is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which speaks exactly about how to awaken in the middle of ordinary life. And it is precisely on this path that you discover that awakening is not a final destination full of blinking lights. It is a daily construction, a commitment to yourself, a quiet practice of transformation. And the more a person walks this path, the more they realize they are not alone, that something even more powerful is happening, a collective remembrance that spreads like wildfire. Somewhere, deep inside every human being, there is a dormant memory that we are all part of something greater. When one begins to awaken, their vibration spreads, like a stone thrown into a still lake, creating waves that reach far beyond what the eyes can see. And it is this collective memory that is slowly rewriting the reality we know, not through wars, revolutions, or impositions, but through the simple presence of awakened people acting consciously in the world. A great example that illustrates this well is the spontaneous movements of compassion that arise in times of crisis. Support groups, community help, networks of solidarity. These are signs that, even unknowingly, people are remembering what truly matters. A small act of kindness, a word of encouragement, an ethical choice made in silence. All of this feeds the invisible network that connects each individual awakening to a collective shift. And the most fascinating thing is that this silent revolution does not require grand heroism. It only requires that you remember, every day, who you truly are. That you act in your small space with awareness, with love, with presence, because each aligned action is a spark that rekindles other souls. And who knows? Maybe at this exact moment as you read these words, the next level of the great game of consciousness is already being unlocked. And now I want to hear from you. After all of this, have you ever experienced a moment that made you think this life could really be a continuation of something greater? Write it down below in the comments because I truly want to hear about your experience. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like. That helps a lot. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, and share this video with someone who needs to hear this right now. And before you go, check out the next recommended video on the screen, because it perfectly complements everything we talked about here.